Okay. So, for today's lecture, our roadmap today is about data preparation exploration. We'll start by learning how to acquire data from Power Query using Power Query and into Excel. Then we'll move on to data exploration and understanding the shape and quality of the data using descriptive statistics and also some graphical displays. Okay, so we do a lot of workshop today. Now, let's start with the acquiring data. So let's imagine we are working maybe in an enterprise and we are part of the analyst team. We have transaction data from the sales team that coming in year by year, like 1 year per one file. And we are going to explore how do we use these order transactions data by using Excel. So we have two scenarios. The first scenario is the scenario where we import each year's file individually and then try to merge or combine them together later on. This is the first scenario. The second scenario is even more automatic, more automated, which is we will use Power Query to point Power Query to a folder and then we'll try to let the Power Query combine everything automatically at once. This second method is much more efficient but try to be error prone and very sensitive to errors. Okay, for the scenario 2, we'll go beyond that by trying to imitate, to mimic the scenario where we already have just 3 years, but later on another year come and the photo has been updated with the latest year, and we'll try to just use one click in Excel to update with the new file that just coming in. Okay, so let's first do the first scenario. So let's open the customer products data file, which is this one. Okay, I have file. Okay, let's open this one, customer products data dot Excel. So everyone already installed Excel, right? Okay, so this file contains 4 sheets. Let's look at it quickly, what it's about. So the first sheet is like a master customer data products, which is customer data database. So it contains the information of our customers in the stores. Okay. Another sheet is like a product master, which we contains all of the products that we sell to customers. The third one is about the management. So we have the name of the manager of each region. So let's say we know Chuck manage East region, Fred manage South region, and the fourth one is called return. It says whether this order ID has been returned, right? When you buy things from Shopee or Lazada, you can return. So this is the the transaction that say whether this order ID has been returned or not. Now, this Excel file doesn't contain transaction sales yet. Transaction sales are in separate files. So if we want to use all of the information here to come up with some visualizations or some analysis, we need to probably put it in the same files at least. So how do we do that? We will use the menu data here. Okay, so usually you can see that in our class, everything start at the data, the menu, the ribbon data here. Okay, and then to get the data, we choose get data. Okay, from file and then from Excel workbook. So my suggestion is that my recommendation is that you should have two monitors, either two monitors from your computers or one from your computer and another one maybe like using iPad or iPhone so that you don't need to switch on and off between the monitor of my live transport or your monitor, right? So it it better to have two monitors at hands right now. Okay. Now get data. Get data here. Okay, get data and from file from Excel. Okay, because we know that our file comes in Excel file. Okay, then go to the folder and then let's choose the first transaction year, which is here Superstore 2022 dot XLSX. This simulates the things that we are receiving a single year of sales data. Okay, Superstore 2022. So click import. And then we have this. This is actually from Power Query, not from Excel. So why did I say it like that? Because actually Power Query and Excel are two separate programs, but they are used together in the ecosystem of Microsoft. So you can see that if you use Power BI before, you will see that Power BI also use Power Query. So that's why if you have learned Power Query in this course, we will be able to use the same technique to use with Power BI. Because the pipeline of using Power BI for data preparation, data acquisition also use Power Query, just like in Excel. Okay, then you choose the name of the sheet, which in this case we only have one sheet, order. Okay, so uh, what you need to do is to examine whether the preview contains the data that you want. Okay, let's say, yeah, it is. But you don't just click load, don't click that. What I suggest is every time you should not believe in the quality of your data. So every time you need to inspect, you need to examine, you need to clean it first. Therefore, you need to go to Power Query by clicking in transform data. Okay, choose transform data. Okay, and it shows something like this. Of course, you may find that it, your monitor, your computer doesn't, Power Query doesn't look like me. Why? Don't worry yet, I will show you later on. So first, let's change the name of the query to Order 2022. Everything that was done in Power Query is called query. So every set of steps that is done in Power Query is called a query, just like in Excel. It's just like in SQL. It's called a query. So let's change our name to Order 2012, 22. Okay, here you can change it here in the property on the right hand side here. 2022. Okay, and then enter. Okay, this is the first place where you can change. The second place is here. You can click left hand side, the query name, and then choose rename. You can change it here also. All right. Now, what you need to do is first, just like what we talked about last time, is to check the data type. So how do we check? You can see that uh, Power Query has already detected the name of the column using the column first row, which becomes the header. So you can see that there are some apply steps over here. The advantage of using Power Query is also here because you can see the steps that were used by Power Query, right? Therefore, once we have steps, right, that means you can add a step, you can remove step, you can reuse step, you can reconfigure the steps. This is why Power Query is very powerful, is a very strong tool for data preparation, data preprocessing. You don't need to take a note yourself. Oh, first step I do this, second step I convert this. No, you don't need to because Power Query do that for you. Over here, you can, if you don't like this step, you can click the symbol here, or you can maybe insert things in between. You can try to apply just 2 steps, 3 steps. Once you highlight or click on that steps, that means it was applied. Okay, so let's go back to data type. So you can see that it's already detected the data type for you. Let's say row ID, it detects as 1, 2, 3. That means it's a whole number. Order date is as a calendar symbol. That means it's already detected as date. Okay. Country, region, ABC means it's a text. Sales 1.2 means it's a decimal number. Okay, so you need to check. You cannot 100% believe in what Power Query did it for you. It is not guaranteed, right? AI is very smart, but it's not guaranteed. You need to also use your brain, use your domain knowledge to try to examine the data, not just rely on computer or AI. Okay. So let's say, oh, it's already okay, but there are these graphs, right? If I click on each column, it also shows some statistic over here and the distribution that says how many west, how many east, how many region, how many rows in this region. Okay, so how can I do this? I go to this place, view, menu view, and then I tick enable column distribution, column profile, and column quality like this. Okay, so you can see that in the slides, I try to capture the steps that we did in class, but I cannot guarantee that I capture all the steps. Okay, otherwise it's too much. Okay, so check column profile and quality, you need to check this up. Okay, and then it will show just like me. Right? So anyone get something like this? Just type 1 in chat. Just type 1. Okay. So what do you notice? You will notice that it only shows 1,000 rows. Why? Because that's what it's designed for. Because you know there is a limit on the number of rows in Excel, right? If you don't know, you can ask AI. So let's ask AI. Let's say I would like to know the limitations of rows and columns in Excel. Example. So do you know the limitations in Excel? How many rows? 1,048,000 something. Maximum column is 16,384. So these are all the limits that we have right now. How about Power Query? How about Power Query? Let's ask them. Do you think also Power Query has some limits? As I said before, because you can use Power Query with Power BI. Actually, not like Excel, right? Power Query does not have row limit. Maximum rows are says to be unlimited. However, the reality is not that. The reality is that it will limit by your computer's RAM. So usually it will be like 10 millions something. However, again, you can see that there are some gap between Excel and Power Query, right? So that means if you use Power Query with Excel and you try to dump the data, because I said it's a two different program, right? You have learned computer architecture with me before. So two different programs, they have two virtual memory space. Therefore, you do something with Power Query, Excel will not see that. You do something in Excel, Power Query will not see that. Otherwise, you need to obviously tell them to. That means you need to obviously copy the data from the virtual space of Power Query to the virtual space of Excel and vice versa, right? So getting back to the limit, that means if you use Power Query to work with Excel, what happens? It will be limited by the number of rows that Excel can do. So although Power Query can do like 10 millions, if you want to do something later with Excel, it cannot. Okay, and it actually will slow down. Even with Excel, although it guarantees you 1 million, but if it goes beyond like 10,000, no, 100,000, 10,000 is still okay. 100,000, you will find that Excel seems slow. Okay, that's the problem with the Excel. Okay, so um, let's get back. Uh, so how do we check the profile of all the rows in our data? This only try to check, this only reports only 1,000 row, right? You have the option here, okay? Right below, here. Can you see that? Here? Column profiling based on top 1,000 rows. Just click that and it will have option to choose column profiling based on entire dataset. Okay. Okay, so when I click this, it goes on my another monitor, so it not show you, right? So I click on the entire dataset. Now it will show you that I have count, which is the number of rows, 2,051 rows. So now this column distribution and column profile are based on the 2,051 rows already. So we have, let's say sales, right? Sales has uh, min 0.85, max 22,000, right? Average 240. Okay. So these are the number of that are core value distribution from the most frequent one to the least frequent one. Okay, so your work is to check whether these all make sense, right? Whether okay, I have 4 region, okay, I have two countries, is it correct? Okay, like this. It depends on the data type. Okay, so talk about the data type. Data type that we talked about last time, that is called data type in the terms of statistics. But data type we talk about here in Power Query, they have their own set of notation of the data type. So Power Query actually helps you to detect the data type automatically, but don't guarantee, right? So they have numerical data type, they have date time data type, they have text, they don't have categorical. So I assume texts are mostly categorical. They have true false, they have binary, and also something that are not known yet which data type it is, they will say it's any. So actually any is not recommended. Why? Because as we know last time that the data type tells you how do we or how can we operate or how can we apply the operation on that column or that variables. So if it's any, it's ambiguous. What can we do with that, right? So it's not recommended at all. Okay. So one thing that might come up as problem is if you have date time. Why? Because daytime comes with locale, right? The locale on this computer and the locale on another computer may be different. Anyone know the difference between the date that are used in United States and the date that are used in Thailand? Anyone know? In Thailand, we say so it's 13 of January, right? 13 slash 1/2026. We like this, right? But in USA, what do they use? Who know that? In USA, what do they use? In Thailand, we use like this, right? Or even Thailand use with this era, right? To yeah, huh? สงกรานต์ สงกรานต์ say oh they use year. No, actually in USA they use month. They will write like this. Month come first, then day, then year in USA. At first, when I went there, I was, what, why? But once we use, oh, it's actually useful because our focus is actually to see whether, okay, in this month, or is it on different month, something like that. So the focus usually is on that month. That's why if it's date, if month come first, we know that, okay, it's a work in that month. Okay, and then we see later which date it is. So let's get back to the date problem. So if you have date problem, that means the locale of the source are different from locale of your computer. We need to come up with the way to tell Power Query to detect this correctly. Actually, if it's the Excel file, this problem is not a problem at all because with Excel file, if we already uh, tell that this column is a date, it will keep it as timestamp. So if it keeps it as timestamp, nothing will need to be worried about. It's just the display, whether you need to display in uh, Thai locale or USA locale. But if your source comes in like text file, CSV, for example, it comes in strings, it's coming in text, so you need to know the locale of the source. In this case, you can tell that this way. We have two ways. The first way is to click on the type. In this case, it's a date, right? Click on that and then use the using locale option. And then in that, you can change the locale of the original source. Okay, let's say do this for you just to show. Do you not need to follow me? Because the to superstore file is already okay, no problem in that. So let's see. Let's say here you check uh, using locale, and then you choose. Let's say it's a date, and if it's United States, you choose English, United States. You can see English United States. It starts with month. If it's come in Thai, you can choose Thai. Thai. See? Thai will use date first and then month and then year. Or it can be in Thai 29 มีนาคม. That means if you choose the correct locale, it can even detect Thai month name. Right? So this is a very good and useful feature here. Okay, I just cancel because we don't have problem here. The second way is so if you use the first way, we need to do like this column by column. So if you have 10 dates column, you need to do 10 times. But if you say, I want to change the locale for the whole workbook, I can go here, File, and then Option Settings, and then Query Options, and then go to Regional Settings, and then I change the locale here. This is also fine. Okay, so two ways to do that. And this is the first way, this is the second way. Okay. Okay, another optional thing is that if the detection of data type is not known yet, or you may later on do some transformation and it change the type of your columns, you can click on this detect data type later on so that it can change the data type into whatever Power Query can help you to detect. For example, it used to be an any, and then you change, you fix that, and then let's click the detect data type again, and it will help you to automatically detect the data type of that columns. Okay. Now let's say everything looks good. So we are ready to dump all of our data from Power Query, the whole 2022 data into Excel. So we just go to Home and then click Close the Load. Okay, go to Home and then here, Close the Load. So you can see what they give us is a table of all the 2022 data with the format as table like this. So format as table means you have this filter that are built for you and many other functionality that will come later on. Okay. Now, how many years we have? We have 4. We already only done 1, right? So let's do the next 3. How do we do that? Do we do things like 2022 again from the beginning? No, right? We are smarter than that. So how do we do? Since the query is like a code, so can we just duplicate the query? Yeah, we can duplicate the query. That means you want to do everything the same as query order 2022. And then just rename to order 2023 and change the source. This is what we need to do. Easier than doing everything from the first step again. Okay, let's get back to Power Query. How do we get back? There are many places we can get back. We can get back from here, queries and connection. If it high, you can go to data and then choose this. It will toggle back. Okay, and then you can just double click on it, or you can go to choose the tab the data here and go to query and then choose edit. Okay, and then it come back to Power Query. So we need to duplicate it. Let's right click and then choose duplicate. Once you choose duplicate, you change the name first so it will not mix out. Change the name to 2023. And then what do we need to do to be actually 23? This is still 22, right? The source is still the same. Why do we change that? Why do we change data to 2023? Where? Anyone? Where do we change that? Where do we start? We change it in the source, right? So you can see that that is the first step in this query, which is source. So we can just go to source and then click on the gear. You can see the gear symbol. Click on the gear symbol and then change or browse to 2023 and then import again. Click OK. And then click the last one. That means you apply the whole thing, the whole steps of Power Query. So now the data is 2023, right? Okay, I give you 2 minutes to do 2 more years, which is 2024 and 2025, okay? Once you're done, just type 2. ใครได้ครบ4 ปีแล้วนะกด2มาเลยเนาะโอเค let me do this also I will just duplicate change the source and then duplicate again. Okay. All right. Now, actually, you need to check and examine all the data type on all the sheet. You cannot just guarantee that every sheet will be the same. Okay. So one thing I have noticed is that there is some now here missing value. So we'll get back and then fix this later on next week. Okay, so let's say everything is okay right now, right? So we just close the load. Close the load. Okay, let's check whether you have the same number of rows just like me. 2051, this is 2130, 2634, 3000. Okay, so what does it tell us? It actually hints something already from uh, acquiring the file. You can see that the number of row orders in 2022 is the smallest, right? And it's getting larger and larger, so there are more rows as we go on to 2025. We have 3,000 things. That means it looks like a good signal, isn't it? That means that maybe means we sell a lot more. We have a lot more customers to buy our things, right? It looks good. Okay. Is it that good? We need to analyze more later on. Okay. But yeah, this already hints something. If you are an analyst, you need to have some like this in your mind. Right? You need to take note of everything that you encounter. Okay, and this is the now thing that we need to deal with later on. All right, so once we get each year of this sales transaction, you can see that one row, what does it mean by one row of sales transaction? You can see one row, it says, okay, we have customer with order ID here to buy at this date, at this region, at this place, and then they buy this product, sell what they paid is this quantity they bought and the discount they got and the profit we got, right? So you can see that one order ID can span many rows. Why? Because each row is just one line. It's called an order line in the view, right? When you go to, let's say, Lotus, let's say today you buy Coke, you buy milk, you buy bread, you buy 3 things, there will be 3 rows in sales transaction here. So the same, this 1134X1, this customer, the same customer, right? This is the same customer. Buy 2 things, this 474 and 3694. Okay, this is what it tells us. So If we want to use this data to analyze about the order, we need to combine the 4 years together into one sheet. So how can we do that? Do we do like this, copy and paste like this? No, right? Because doing things like this is very error prone. It's not an efficient way to do. Now we need to use again Power Query. Okay, so we go to this. We will use an operation in Power Query called append queries, or and another name is called union queries. So append means you append file, you append sheet, you put the sheet and stack down another sheet. So the rules in Power Query is that it will detect the column header and use that column header to reference in everything they do, right? That means when you perform the append operation in Power Query, they will base on the names of the column that were found in both tables, not based on position. So you can have ABC, SCD, whatever. It will look at the name of the column header. And the first one in the list of the thing that you append will be the order of the column headers that you have in the results. The final table columns come from all the columns, from all the tables that you have. So for example, for the first sheet, you have ABC, like this. The second sheet, you have ABD, and they will use Power Query to append them. You can see that, okay, they will detect that, this A and A are the same. So you just stack up this A, right? B the same, stack up. C, we have C in the first sheet, but no C here. That means no C here means it will come now. D, we have D on the second sheet, but no D on the first sheet, so it will have now in the column for the first sheet. And that's this easy, very easy. One thing to remember is the name. Computer name is, if it's the string, right? It needs to be exactly the same string. Therefore, if you have year Y, big Y, and year Y, small y, computer will look like it's different columns. And so it will come as two columns, year, big year, year, small year. So this is the place where you need to clean when you acquire each of your sales transaction sheet. Yeah, this may be required. This may be required. Okay, so to standardize the column that are the same. After when it will append to the same column, right? So where do we append? Here again, get data, combine queries, and then append. Or you can choose to hover one of your query, and then there will be dot here, and then choose append. Either way is fine. Okay, I will choose the first one. So go to data, get data, combine queries, and then append. Okay, so they ask you whether you want to append 2 tables or append 3 or more tables. Of course, we have 4 tables. Therefore, we need to choose the second one, 3 or more tables. So the options will be changed. Now you can choose like this, 2000, you can double click, or you can choose the add here, like this, right? Now we have 4 sheets to be appended. Is it matter for the order here? It actually doesn't matter much because what? Because you can actually sort it later on. Depends on year, right? But if you are like a perfectionist, and you want to see that the raw data that are appended are sorted by years. You need to sort it here too. So you need to put 2025, move down like this. So the order that we see here will be the order that it appends. So it will append, it start with 2022, append 2023, append 2024, and append 2025. Okay. And what about if you are very unreluctantly to maybe push twice, right? Like say, I push twice 2025 like this. What happened? It will not remove duplicate for you. It will come as duplicate. So you need to beware on that. Okay, so if you don't want, just click remove. Okay. Now let's click OK. Okay, so now I get this again. Column profiling based on 1000 row, right? I can change to an entire data set. Okay, so the entire data set comes as 10,000 row something. Okay, I change the name of the order, the query to be orders. So that is not like whatever append it is. Again, you need to examine and inspect the name, the data type, whatever you may see from your data. Okay. So let's say we will do transformation and pre-processing later on next week. So right now, just close it. Okay. Close and load. Let's say we are really satisfied on this for now. So let's close and load. Okay, close and load here. Home, close and load. Okay, so it shows you that we have 10,194 rows loaded here from 2022, right, to 2025 is what we have in order. Okay, so anyone with me now? Just type 3. Okay, let's save, but we will choose save as because we start with the customer product data, right? We will choose save as file, save as. Okay, let's say scenario 1. Scenario 1, okay. Let's save as. Okay, and then you just close it because this already for scenario 1. You need to submit your file later on. Okay, save and close. Now, scenario 2. Let's open customer products data again. Okay. Okay. But now, we will, in this scenario, we will do further. That's just like we have talked before. We will move the last year, Superstore 2025, out of this folder. Whatever folder you have, let's move Superstore 2025 into another folder. I can just move outside. Okay, so right now, make sure that in your folder you only have 2022, 2023, and 2024. Okay, 3. Other than that, it's fine. We will deal with that later on. Okay, this This assume, right, says we only have 3 years. The last year, 2025, has not been processed and sent to us yet. So let's do this first, and then we do not need to wait for the last year. So we go back and then again, data, get data, and then from file, we will choose from folder, right? We do not choose from file. We choose to point that to the folder, from folder, and then you browse to that folder. Here, DE471. Okay, this folder. Open. Okay, come to this navigator thing, which shows you the metadata of all the files, including temporary files, in your folder. So in this folder, I have customer products, right? I have Superstore 2022, 23, 24. I have scenario one, I just saved. I have the temporary data because I'm just opening customer product data. Okay. What extension are these files? What are date of the modified? What are the date of the access, right? So again, you don't guarantee, you don't need to believe in the quality of what you do yet. So you don't click combine or load, because I recommend do not trust the source, and actually you cannot, right? Because you don't want to combine customer product. You only want to combine these three, right? So click transform data. Okay, so it shows you just like last display, right? Just like last UX, UI. However, at this place, this is inside Power Query. So you can do anything with just this metadata, just like it's a column of data. Therefore, you can filter what you want. What is your logic? You want to filter only the file that start with Superstore and ends with maybe .xlsx, or maybe just start with Superstore is enough, right? So where do we filter? We're using this drop down, right? Drop down. Filter is a text filter, and the condition of the filter is to begins with. We click begins with. Begins with what? Superstore. Begins with Superstore. I think this is already enough, but we can add more condition. Right? You can see begins with Superstore and maybe ends with dot xlsx. This will make condition more strict and then less error, right? To be more strict. Try to leave out some special case. Maybe Superstore blah 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 dot text. We don't want that, right? Okay, it needs to be Excel file. Then click OK. Now, it only shows what we want to filter, only 3 years Superstore sales. This is what we want. What we maybe further want is if we are perfectionists again. I want the data to be combined and ordered by years, right? Right now, it orders independently. It starts with 2024, 2000. No, I want 2022 come first, then 2023, then 2024, right? So I can add more steps. You can see right now the step is source, get source, filter rows. I need to add more step to sort. So you can go back to this drop down and then you choose sort, either ascending or descending. So I sort ascending. Say we have the first step that just been inserted, which is sorted rows. So now it will be sort by the name. Superstore 2022 first, 23, then 24. So if it has 25, it will come later on. Now, anyone is with me? Okay. Anyone not with me? Okay, what's next? Now we need to let it combine. Right now it's only file metadata. We do not combine any content of the files yet. The file content is here. You can see there is a column called content. And if we click the binary thing, you can see that actually this binary encode the whole file, right? This is 2022, the whole file. This is 2023. We need to expand this content, and once it expand, it will be append together. So how do we expand? We click this double arrow with the underline here, right? It's called combine files. So click this. And then we have this again, just like what we have before in scenario 1. But there are some difference. What's the difference between this and that? The difference is here. The difference is, we already done, right? So it's different is here. For the combined case of this scenario, we need to tell them what is the sample file. What does it mean by sample file? The sample files mean the role model. That other files we need to follow this file. So that means this scenario of combining files and the scenario of using append query to combine files are a little bit different here. Because for append queries, all the columns will stay, right? The results table will contain all the columns, either the same name or different names. But for combined files using folder like this, you need to have the row, the template. Other files need to follow this template. Therefore, if the template only have ABC, but your other sheet have ABD, template doesn't have D, so your D column will be thrown away. It will be gone. หายไปเลยนะ ก็คือถ้ามันคอลัมน์ไม่เหมือนกัน ไม่เหมือนกับตัว sample file เนี่ย sample file มันจะเป็นตัวหลักเลย เป็นตัวตั้งต้น เป็นสารตั้งต้นอ่ะ มันต้องเป็นตาม sample file ถ้ามันมีคอลัมน์ที่มันไม่เหมือน คอลัมน์นั้นจะถูก ignore โยนทิ้ง แต่ถ้ามันไม่มีคอลัมน์ตาม row model สิ่งที่เกิดขึ้นก็คือมันก็จะกลายเป็น null เห็นไหม those not exist will be coded as null those that exist but not exist in the template will be thrown away นี่คือเป็นความแตกต่างระหว่างเวอร์ชันนี้กับเวอร์ชันก่อนนั้นคุณก็ต้องตระหนักรู้ไว้ด้วยนะคะ so this scenario is more strict and probably create more errors therefore they have this skip files with errors button for you to choose otherwise if it encounter errors it will just stop it will not continue okay not just the name of the column, the name of the sheet has to be the same too. So this sheet we have order Superstore 2023 need to have the same name sheet, which is order. So if you ask me, what about if we don't have the same name? Okay, it will contain error, but actually there are more complicated solution, but you need to code in encode ก็คือครูบอกว่ามันมันรีควายแหละว่าชื่อคอลัมน์ต้องเหมือนกันใช่ไหมชื่อชีตต้องเหมือนกันถ้าไม่เหมือนมันก็จะเลิกอาจจะเกิดเลิกขึ้นแล้วไม่มีทางแก้ไหมคือจริงๆมีชีตคนละชีตก็ได้อันหนึงชีตชื่อออเดอร์อีกอันหนึงชีตชื่อเซลล์อย่างนี้ก็ได้แต่คุณจะใช้วิธีตรงๆแบบนี้ไม่ได้คุณต้องใช้วิธีเขียนโค้ดซึ่งก็คือ M code นั่นเองคือมันมีวิธีแหละทุกอย่างมันมีวิธีแก้ไขเนาะ เพียงแต่ว่าไอ้วิธีแก้ไขนั้นมันไม่ได้มาซึ่งความง่ายไงมันไม่ได้แบบกดแล้วก็แก้ได้นะแต่ทำได้คุณสามารถถาม AI ให้ช่วยคุณนะหรือว่าคุณสามารถไปลองดูใน YouTube ก็มีคนสอนอยู่นะคะทำได้โอเค we don't talk about those complicated things here once we choose the sample file we choose the name of the sheet that we want to combine and then we click OK So let's say my file is 2022 ละกันเนอะ and then order and then okay okay we get that and then we change the name of the query again to be orders you can see that it looks more complicated than the first scenario, right? They do many things. They do sort row, they do hidden file, they do whatever they do. And they also add one extra column for you, which is the source name. You can use this later on because source name may implicitly tells you, such as tells you the year, tells you the region that the sales come from, something like that. You can use that later on. If you don't want to use, you can remove it later. So here you will find many other things. That means actually that what I said before, right? You can do many complicated things. You can send parameter to the file, right? Using the parameter file, you can do the transformation before combining. So for example, you may have some condition that you need to transform, let's say, change column header before combine, right? To standard the column header name. You can change it over here in the transform sample file. But if the logic says you combine first and then you change or transform later, you do it over here in the query orders. Okay, so it depends on your process. It depends on your operation, whether it will apply to the individual file in a folder or whether it will apply later on once it's combined. Okay, we don't do anything here, so we just need to close the load. Okay. Okay, now we have closed the load, right? Now you can see that after close the load, we have how many rows? We have 6,800 rows because we don't have Superstore 2025 yet. Now let's say, okay, our friends give us 2025 file now. Okay, let's move the file back to the folder. I move the file back to the folder. 2025. Okay, I get 2025. I have four years already. How can I update my file here? How can I update my file here? Of course, you just need one button. What is that magic button? What's that button? Your folder is renewed or refreshed, right? You need to just come here and click refresh. So where do you click refresh? There are many places you can do. You can right click on the table and choose refresh here, or you can go to the button here, click refresh, or you can go to here, table design, and click refresh over here. So many places, right? So let's do refresh together. 1, 2, 3. Click refresh. What happened? Now we have 10,194 rows, right? We have order until 2025. Source name contains 2025. Okay, if you are with me now, type 4. Type 4. มีคนไม่ทันไหม ไม่ทันตรงไหนบอกได้นะ ก็คือเมื่อกี้เนาะ เราแค่กด refresh ใช่ไหมเออจริงไม่ได้ทำอะไรเลยก็คือ move ไฟล์2025กลับไปที่โฟลเดอร์แค่นี้เองทุกอย่างมันก็จะถูกทำใหม่เห็นไหมเลือกไฟล์เฉพาะ Superstore Source ไฟล์เนาะแล้วก็มาคอมไบกันมีใครติดตรงไหนบ้างใครได้แล้วกด4โอเคถ้าไม่ทันลองดูใน Capture เนาะอ่าเนี่ยนะคะ Okay, so in conclusion, what we have is right now we have all the data that we acquire from the files to Excel, right? Now we conclude with once you get everything, you need to have data dictionary. So data dictionary contains attribute, contains the description of that attribute, contain the data type that we learned before, whether it's ordinal, it's nominal, or it's ratio or interval, discrete or continuous. And it should also have example of the data and the valid range. For example, we know that sales can be 0 or until infinity, but it cannot be minus, right? Quantity need to start from 1, cannot be 0. Discount need to be start from 0, which means no discount. Profit can be negative, so minus infinity. So this way we know what it means by clean data, whether this is clean, whether this is not clean or dirty from this data dictionary. Of course, this data dictionary actually not full content data dictionary that you have on your database class, but it should tells you something that you can consider when you try to pre-process the file. All right, okay. So let's have a break before we go to the next topic, which is the theory of data exploration, because before we analyze something, we need to understand what we have, okay? And we use the data exploration as the detective work, okay? To what do? We will use it as the motivation of the data exploration is to help us to select the right tool, to select the right algorithm, or to select the right operation to pre-process or analyze that data. So usually in data exploration, we use our ability, which is the human ability to recognize pattern that may come up from the data and may not be captured by the analysis tools. So this is related to what you have learned before in like data science class or stats class, right? Which is exploratory data analysis or EDA. This term is created by a statistician called John Tukey. So he has his book here. You can, if you are interested, you can take a look at it. Okay, so let's have a break for 10 minutes then. 14:45 to 14:55 we'll come back. Okay. Okay. So why we examine the data? Examine is the same as to explore and inspect the data because data tell us something. We need to catch some mistakes in the data. And maybe we can see some patterns in data. We may see some violation that we come up before with statistical things. So you have learned about garbage in, garbage out before. If we have garbage data, the results will also be garbage, right? The best algorithm cannot help. So any quantitative thing, any techniques things come with true score. But that true score doesn't come alone. It also comes with errors. So the data that you have seen, that you acquire, contains both true things and errors. So we need to catch that errors. We need to seek out that errors as much as possible. And this error may depend on the bias, may depend on the context, or may depend on the domain knowledge of that data. So, what do we examine? We examine things about the domain of the data, the distribution, whether it's symmetric, whether it's skewed, how useful of the raw data. Do we need to do some transformation? What's about the quality data problems? Are there any outliers in the data? What are the correlation between a couple of variables in the data? Are there any relationships, either interrelationships or any functional relationships between them? Or do we only focus on subsets of data, not just the whole things? Okay, so think visual. Humans are the best pattern recognition. Okay. What are we looking for? We are looking for something that are messy in the data. We know the data are messy. We may look for something that are missing. We may look for something that are misspelling, mistakes, some typo. We may look for some mismatch in the unit, or maybe the format of the date that we talked before, right? We may need to look and see whether there are some requirement to converge or maybe merge things or maybe combine things, right? We may look for some unbalance in the data, whether we have some unbalanced thing, unusual distribution, like a long tail in the recommendation, or any things that are not useful, like emoji in the dataset. If we don't do sentiment analysis, right? We don't like emoji at all. So exploratory data analysis methods are twofold. whether we want to use summary statistic or it's called descriptive statistic, which are usually quantifiable, right? Or we can use visualizations. In practice, an analyst typically use the mix of both worlds, both descriptive statistics and also visualization. Okay. So let's first talk about statistic. Actually, I will just skip this quick, right? Because I know that you already learned a lot of these statistics thing in your stat class, in your data science class. So you already know the central tendency. You already know the difference between mean, median, and mode, right? You know that the mean is sensitive to the outliers. So if you have outliers, you better choose median. Okay. Normal distribution, skew distribution, symmetric distribution. If you have symmetric distribution, that means if you have a graph like this, that means on the x-axis we have values, right? And the y-axis we have things like um, frequency or what is called the frequency and the distribution things. Whether we have a lot of them, it will be like a high mountain here. So if we have symmetric, that means usually the mean, the median, and mode are the same or almost the same. It could be a little bit different, right? So this is symmetric distribution. If we have skew distribution, we can have positively skew, or it's called right skew. Right skew means we have a long tail on the right hand side. In opposite, we have left skewed or negatively skewed. We have long tail on the left hand side. What does it mean by this long tail? Let's say the x-axis is the grade of the final exam, let's say. So if it is positively skewed like this, means that there are very few people who get high grade, like 100 or 80, right? But most of the people who get the grade are small, right? The low one, right? Like say 20 or 30. If we are left skew, what does it mean? It means that people who get high grade, people are usually get high grade. So let's say most of the people get 70 or 80, and less people get low grade, like 10 or 20, only one or two people, something like this. This is called negatively skewed. Okay. But if you say this is a normal distribution, it needs to be symmetric first. And more than symmetric is that the curve has to be very beautiful like this. That means if we calculate mean plus minus standard deviation, there should be 68% of the measurements between these numbers. If it is mean plus minus twice standard deviation, it should contain about 95% of the measurements. For 3 times, it should contain 99.7%ก็คือถ้ามันเป็น symmetric นะคะมันอาจจะไม่ได้ normal นะแต่ถ้ามันจะเป็น normal มันต้อง symmetric แล้วมันต้องมีคุณสมบัติประมาณนี้ก็คือเป็น symmetric ที่สวยอะรูประคังคว่ำแบบสวยงามเลยนะคะแล้วก็มี property ประมาณนี้ก็คือบวกค่ามีนเป็นหนึ่งนะลบค่ามีนเป็นหนึ่งเนี่ยจะมีประชากรประมาณ68%เนอะ So we have a lot of ways to measure the distribution. Okay. We have quartiles. Q1, 25th percentile. We have Q3. We have the interquartile, Q3 minus Q1. We have a 5-number summary, mean, max, median, Q1, Q3. We can do box plot from 5-number summary. We can take a look at outlier using the IQR. And we also have variance and standard deviation. This is variance, the equation for the variance. Okay, I don't talk about it like much because I know that you already learned about it. So standard deviation is the square root of the variance. And there are some difference between sample variance and population variance. This you already know, right? And this is the five number summary. What does it mean by five number summary? We have minimum, we have maximum, we have median. That means we sort our measurement, sort our data from low to high, right? For after we sort our data from low to high, who sit at the median, who sit in the middle is the median, right? So the number at the median means that there are 50% population or samples that are less than or equal that number. If it is Q1, what does it mean by Q1? First quartile. It means that there are 25% people that has less or equals the number of the Q1. Let's say Q1 of the final exam grade is 60. What does it mean? It means that 25% of the student in the class gets 50% or less. Okay. If Q3 is 80, for example, that means that 75% of the people or 75% of the students in the class get less than or equals 80 grade. What about the term quantile? Quantile is actually a general sense. Quantile นี่คือเป็นคำที่ general มาก It means quantiles mean you want to partition your set of values into Q subsets equal size or almost equal size. So if you apply 4 to be 4 partition, we call it quartile. Quad mean 4, right? Quartile. If we partition into 100 partition equal size, we call percentile. If we partition to 10 equal size, we call it decile. Okay, so quantile is very general sense. It depends on how many portion or how many partition that we want to separate. And it will have the special case of them. Quartile, percentile, decile, things like this. To measure skew data, we have two numbers, skewness and kurtosis. Okay, so if the skewness number is 0, it means it's symmetrical. It's not skewed. If it's like between minus 0.5 to 0.5, it's almost symmetric. If it's more than 2.5, it's getting more skew. So if it's a lot, like 1.7, more than 1.5 or less than 1 minus 1.5, it's getting extremely skewed. The skew is not enough. Maybe we need to use kurtosis to take a look at how peak the distribution is. If it is leptokurtic, like this, it means it's so peak, very high, mountain is very high. So the tail is very heavy for the leptokurtic. You can see that there are a lot of things on the tail. That means there are a lot of outliers. So for leptokurtic type of kurtosis, the value of kurtosis will be more than 3. Or you can report excess kurtosis. Excess kurtosis means you minus 3 first. It depends on the tool. So in Excel, it reports kurtosis. In Tableau, it reports excess kurtosis. Okay. Mesokurtic is like normal distribution like this. It's very beautiful curve. Okay, so tail is very moderate, and kurtosis value will be 3 or almost 3. Excess kurtosis will be 0. For plateaukurtic, the tail is light. So this one, right? No outliers, but it's very นะแบบแป้นKurtosis value will be less than 3. So if we have uniform distribution like this, it is plateautic. So both of the numbers, skewness and kurtosis, tells us what are the shape of the distribution of our values. So now we will use descriptive statistic to help us sense what we have in our data. Okay, for where we will use the descriptive statistic in analysis to pack. So let's try to find this button here in data, and find data analysis. Okay, I just close this. Go to data and then data analysis. Anyone cannot find it? Anyone? ใครหาปุ่มนี้เจอ กด1 ใครหาไม่เจอกด0อ่ะ Oh, most of you cannot find it, right? Don't worry, okay? It's normal to not find it because you haven't used it before. It is not enabled yet. So how do we enable this data analysis? You just go to File, here, File. Down here we have options. Click options. And then down here we have add-ins. And then manage Excel add-ins. And then you click go. Go. You need to check analysis to pack here. I already checked, so I have. And then click OK. And it should come up. Okay. So if it's still not come up, don't worry. You may need to close the file first and then reopen the file again. It should come up. Okay, so anyone still cannot come up with the analysis to pack here? มีใครไม่ขึ้นยัง มีใครยังไม่เจอไม่ขึ้น ขึ้นหมดแล้วเนาะโอเคเพราะฉะนั้นขึ้นหมดแล้วก็กดเลยค่ะ คลิก data analysis and then let's say we want to find descriptive statistic here. Descriptive statistics. And then okay. Now we need to choose the input. Let's say we want to do row ID first. You click the whole column B. Okay, and then it's grouped by columns. It's already correct. Label in the first row. Yes, we have labels in the first row. Don't count labels on. So labels in the first row. That's why it will not count label. Then where should be the output? You can have the new worksheet or you can have the new workbook to contain the results of these statistics. Or I'm very lazy, so I will just put it over here, output range, and then I put it here. Okay. And don't forget to click summary statistic. Check summary statistics, otherwise nothing will come up. Summary statistic. Okay. and then click OK. Right, click OK. Wait a little bit. It analyze the data for us, calculate all the things for us. Here it comes. So actually, is it useful to do descriptive statistics for row ID? Yes or no? We talked about data type before, right? What's the data type of the row ID? It's just an identifier. So identifier means it's categorical. It's not numerical. So descriptive statistics is used and very useful only for numerical data. It's not useful in this case, but actually we can do that because it's numbers. Excel will not know whether it should or should not. It cannot help us. We need to use our context. We need to use our knowledge, right? So these numbers from the row ID actually it's not quite meaningful, right? Those curtosis skewness is not meaningful at all, right? Median not meaningful, mean not meaningful at all. What should be meaningful? It should be something like minimum, maximum. This tells us that the last row is 10,194, right? Okay. So let's do something that are more meaningful. You can also do date. In my slides, I have date. Again, date is what? Interval, or it can also sometimes be considered as categorical, but it's interval. So it doesn't have true zero, right? So it's actually can do mean, but actually in this case mean doesn't tell us anything. That's why actually this doesn't help us a lot. So my activity is to let everyone do descriptive statistic for ratio attributes, which is sales, profit, discount, and quantity. After you come up with the results of these four ratio attributes, what it's more difficult is try to interpret it. What does it mean? Right? What does it tell us? Why the kurtosis is like this? Why the mean and the median is like this? What does it mean? This is more important than using the tool to click, 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 and then get the results. All right. So let's say it's 15 เนาะบ่าย 3:18ให้เวลาสัก5 นาทีบ่าย 3:23เรามาเฉลยกันMy hint is that since the four attributes are together, right? You can do four of them at the same time. If it's not together, you cannot do at the same time. You can need to separate, click the data analysis and descriptive statistic. But if it's four consecutive columns like this, you can do four things for descriptive statistic at the same time, just one click. โอเคใครทำได้แล้วกดห้ามาเลยอ่าสิ่งที่คุณจะต้องได้นะก็คือหน้าตาแบบนี้อ่ะ sales quantity discount profit ใครได้อันนี้ละห้านะเลือกห้าเลยนะคะไม่มีใครทำเลยเหรออืมโอเคกำลังทำเนาะค่ะจักรพงศ์มีคำถามหรือเปล่าหรือว่าไงหรือห้าห้านะโอเคพาบันนีมาห้าโอเคมีอินเตอร์แอคชั่นกับครูหน่อยเนาะไม่งั้นครูนึกว่าพูดอยู่คนเดียวไม่นะกูกลัวฟังไม่รู้เรื่องเนี่ยฟังรู้เรื่องใช่ไหม so what does it tells us เนาะ what does it mean by what we get here actually can you take a look เอาภาษาไทยดีกว่าไหมถึงภาษาอังกฤษดี you can see that most of the sales ใช่ไหมอ่า usually allow 50 something เนาะ50 something median is 50 but mean is 2,200 bigger means that probably there are some big lot that skew the data of the mean, right? So because mean is more sensitive to outliers, right? Quantity, usually people buy right three, right? It's it's normal. It makes sense because this is furniture store, copy machine store. People do not buy much, right? Discount usually is about 15%, 0.15. Profit is very meager. It means very small profit, 28, right? You sell 200, you get 28. Feel very light profit. Mm. Uh, Skewness. You can see skewness are positive for most of them. Not much skill for discount, right? But a lot more skill for sales. Even quantity is more skill. Skewness for profit is also all of them positively skill or right skill. What about how peak it is? Kurtosis, oh, very high, 300. Oh, this very, very high, 4,000. This is not that high too, right? Kurtosis, this is 400. So what does it mean by this? That means sales quantity and profit should look like this, right? With high tail. And the quantity is more peak than others, right? คือมันสุดโต่งขึ้นไปมากกว่าเพราะว่าค่าเคอร์โตซิสเนี่ยมันเยอะมากนะคะ Okay. And we notice something that should be abnormal here. Minimum of discount is minus. It's negative. Is it possible? Discount negative? No, it's not possible. So something bad happens here. Maximum of quantity is 300, but median is just 3. Mode is just 2. Mean very small number, but why maximum is 300? Is there something wrong here? Okay, we will investigate it later on. To help us, we can use AI, right? So how can we use AI? Yeah, just do something very normal. You just copy your results and then you go to, let's say I use Gemini. KI, paste that, it will paste as image. And then I can ask AI. I can ask AI. Let's say I want to let AI describe the describe the results from descriptive statistics feature in Excel. I got what could we tell about columns, sales, profit, quantity, and discount. Okay, let it help us describe. Okay, what we got? Heavily right skill, significantly higher than median in case average sale is being pulled up by small number of large transaction ก็คือ most sale are quite small เห็นไหม high variability extreme outliers the maximum is enormous คืออันที่ขายได้เยอะมันใหญ่มากกว่าค่ามีเดียนมากเลยมันก็เลย characteristic high เห็นไหม positive skewness confirm ฮะ heavy tails massive orders นะคะ quantity มันมี small order size average customer buy very few items ใช่ไหมอ่าตุ๊ด outlier maximum 300 extreme peak เห็นไหม kurtosis very high exceptionally high แสดงว่า suggest data is cluster around the mean เนาะ discount discrete distribution mode is zero mean no discount ส่วนใหญ่ละนะคะ median 0.2นะเพราะฉะนั้น minimum เนี่ย data quality fact เห็นไหมมันแฟกเราให้เราด้วยนะคือมันบอกว่า minimum -0.1เนี่ย in most data set น่ะ discount cannot be negative this likely data entry error that needs investigating นะ profit เป็นไงบ้าง volatile performance นะคะ average ประมาณ26 28แต่ว่า minimum significant loss เยอะมากนะแล้วก็มันก็คือพอ loss เยอะมันก็ eat profit ไหม เออก็คือขายอย่างอื่นได้เยอะมีอันเนี้ยได้ loss เยอะมันก็ไปกิน profit ของที่ขายได้เยอะก็เหมือนกับขายฟรีอะนะคะ skill distribution เนาะเราก็ summarize ให้ด้วยว่ามันเป็นยังไงบ้างนะคะมี suggest next step ด้วยนะว่าเฮ้ยไอ้ minimum discount ต้องทำยังไงเนาะอ่ะก็ AI ก็ช่วยเราได้นะคะระดับหนึ่งโอเค now Home tab, okay. For the past version, there should be one button here called Analyze Data, but it's gone now. It becomes Copilot. คือถ้ามีเวอร์ชันเก่าเนี่ยมันจะเป็น Analyze Data เนาะเวอร์ชันใหม่ Use AI Copilot help you to do analyze data. Okay. Now, graphic display of statistical. We will talk about box plot, histogram, QQ plot, and scatter plot. Okay, you already know box plot, right? So box plot contains five number summary. The data is represented with a box, and the end of the box are first and third quartile. So the height of the box or the width of the box is IQR. interquartile range. The median is marked by a line within the box. And for Excel, it also marks the mean as like this เนาะก็คือใน Excel มันจะมี mark เป็นกากบาทนะเป็น cross นะในตัว box ด้วยว่ามีอยู่ตรงไหนนะคะแล้วก็ line is called whiskers it extend to max minimum maximum or it's not minimum maximum it is the boundary of the minimum that is not outlier and boundary of the maximum that is not outliers นะคะ and outliers are point beyond the threshold so how do we calculate the outliers? We calculate from IQR. So Q3 minus Q1 is IQR, right? And 1.5 times IQR plus Q3 is the upper limit. Anything beyond that is called outliers. Again, lower limit is Q1 minus 1.5 times IQR. Lower than that is possible outliers. So we can use box plot as outlier detection. We can use box plots to determine the skewness. So we can just first take a look at the box, whether the box are equal or unequal using the median. If the median on the right hand side like this, that means there are long tail on the left hand side, that means it's skewed to the left. But if the box are equal, but the whisker extend on one of the side, it also skew on that side, right? So this is skew to the right. But if the box is equal, the whiskers are equal, then this is the real symmetrical. So you need to consider two different things, whether the box are symmetrical, whether the whisker are symmetrical also. So this, although looks like the box says looks like skew to the right, but it's actually skewed to the left because of these long whiskers. This is also skewed to the right. There's long whisker here and also box here is very skewed. Histogram. Histogram is the graph that display the frequency, not the bar chart. It is actually divide data into bins, and each box or each bar in the histogram is not values. The height is not valued, it's the frequency. So actually, if we see histogram, we mostly take a look at the area underneath the histogram, not the height of the bar. Okay. So histogram often tell more than box plot. You can see these two histograms is actually have the same looks of the box plot like this. Right? But histogram is totally different. They have the same min max, Q1, Q3, and median, but they have different data distributions. So the conclusion is that you need to take a look at both box plot and histogram. Scatter plot. So for box plot and histogram, we were used in univariate analysis, right? We take a look at histogram and box plot for each of the individual numerical data. But if you want to take a look at a couple of data together, that means we need to do bivariate analysis. One option is to look at scatter plot. So scatter plot gives us to see the distribution of the two variables together, the pattern of the two variables, the cluster of the points, and whether for the two variables there are some outliers. Maybe we consider this as outliers here. And we can see the relationship is up to a place and then down after that. So each pair of the value is treated as coordinates and plotted the points in the plane. So it actually show the relationships between two variables. Another plot that we talk about here, but we don't plot it in our class because it's actually cannot be created directly in Excel. No, quantile plotเนี่ย cannot be created directly in Excel. Even in stat program like R, they have 9 different equation for quantile plot. So I can see that quantile plot is quite complicated to do. I will just give you the concept. So quantile plot means that you want to compare the distribution of a variable with another distribution of another variable. Whether one distribution is shift from another distribution. So usually it would compare your variable with normal distribution ก็คือมัน quantile plot มันใช้เทียบ2 data แต่ปกติแล้วเนี่ยไอ้ data หนึ่งเนี่ยมักจะเป็นอันที่เป็น template ก็คือเป็น normal distribution เพื่อเทียบว่าอันนี้คุณเอามาเทียบเนี่ยมันเป็น normal หรือเปล่าแค่นั้นเอง if it's scatter in the line here it means it's normal or if it's scattered between two different variables that are not normal it means if it goes along the line it means both of the distribution are the same. Now, in this case we compare between the distribution of branch 2 and branch 1 unit price. It looks like unit price of branch 1 tends to be lower because branch 2 has higher. It should be here, but it goes up here. That means branch 1 tends to be lower than branch 2. If we take a look at these three together, right, it tells you something. If the data is symmetrical, we have the box plot that are symmetric like this. We have the distribution plot or histogram plot like this. We have QQ plot that goes along the line here with a little bit deviated at the end, but it's okay. If we have right skew like this, right, this is right skew, right? We have this shape of the QQ plot. If it is left skew, we have this shape of the QQ plot เนาะก็คือเราสามารถใช้ทั้ง QQ plot ใช้ทั้ง histogram หรือ box plot ในการดู skewness ได้ว่ามัน skew ไปทางไหนมันก็จะตอบไปในทิศทางเดียวกันเนาะมันคงไม่แบบค้านกันนะคะโอเค so let's do this first we will do box plot for these 4 ratio attributes we want to do one by one sales first คลิกที่หัว header เนาะก็คือ column L นะคะ insert อยู่ตรงนี้ insert blocks and whisker plot ปึ๊บโอเค let me title it this is sales now it's your turn do for quantity discount and profit okay so let's say 3 minutes ละกันนะ3 4 1 3 4 4เนาะ3 4 4 3 4 5 โอเคอ่ะกูก็ทำด้วยเนาะก็ quantity insert box and whiskers quantity discount แบบไหนอินที่เรียบเลยโอเค quantity อ๋อไม่ใช่ดิเนี่ยอันนี้คือ discount profit okay so what do we have? It goes along the same concept as what we get from the discrete statistic, right? So we have like minus 0.1 here, and usually most of them is between no discount and 20% discount. Oh, a lot, three outliers, 60%, 70%, 80%, right? Profit can be both negative and positive, but usually it is along zero, so very few profit. Quantity, there is outlier here, so we need to investigate more on this. Right? A lot of sales outlier over here, big lot numbers, but most of sales are around tens or hundred. Right? So one thing that Excel can do is that we can add another dimension. We can add another categorical dimension into our box plot. It is called categorical box plot. So in this case, that means we can do box plot, like box plot of the sales for each region. So it expand the dimension of our analysis to be two variable at the same time, one categorical variable and one numerical variable. Okay, how do we do that? Let's say we want to do sales, right, by region. Let's copy sale box plot. Okay, and then you highlight the box plot, and then you go to chart design and go to select data, and you can see that in the select data source we have horizontal categorical axis that is still empty. Okay, so we'll have to add categorical data into here. Okay, so we click edit, click edit, and then click again. We will choose to group the sales data by region here. We cannot choose the whole because it will use region as one category ก็คือถ้าเราเลือกทั้งคอลัมน์เนี่ยมันจะเอา header ไปเป็น category ด้วยซึ่งเราไม่ต้องการดังนั้นเราต้องใช้วิธี old fashion ก็คือ choose only the data. How do we choose from the first row to the last row? We have shortcut นะ you have to click control shift แล้วก็ arrow down together ก็คือช็อตคัทในการทำให้มันไฮไลท์ตั้งแต่โลแรกก็คือโลที่สองเนี่ยไปถึงโลสุดท้ายเนี่ยก็คือให้เราเลือก Control Shift ตรงคีย์บอร์ดกับเครื่องหมายลงเนาะพร้อมกันปุ๊บเนี่ยมันก็จะไปถึงสุดท้ายก็คือ J2 ถึง J1195นะคะแล้วกดโอเคก็จะเห็นว่ามันก็จะมี categorical add on to the axis labels. It will group for us automatically. We don't need to do anything, right? And then we click OK. Let's see what happens. This is what happened, no? So you can see that again, the sales for each region sit in around zero. No, not much. There are a lot of big lot outliers for each of these regions, but for south there are most big lot in here, right? And also central, no? So Your work is to do discount distribution by region. I want to see whether there are regional difference between discount. No, I have 3 more minutes for you. Right now it's 3:51, so 3:54. Okay, did you get it? Any regional difference? Any region that are different than others? Okay, let me also I copy this count and then I change the data here, edit, choose the region. Okay, this is what I got. So what you can see is that the negative number from the discount comes from East. So you can go and ask the manager of the East whether you actually have negative discount. And then some outliers for East, one outlier for Central. And you can see that most of the discount, right, around no discount and 20%, but overall the Central gives higher discount than other regions. Okay, let's see whether AI also agree with us. What can you say about the box plot of discount distribution by region in the picture? Okay. Based on the box plot, here's analysis of discount. Central region, the high discount zone, highest median discount, widest range, highest average. This is very high discount zone. East region, the anomaly negative discount, there is an outlier here. Similar spread to south and west. เนาะ sideways conservative discount เห็นไหมก็คือน่าจะปกตินะคะก็คือ insight ที่ได้ก็คืออะไร central region is the most aggressive with pricing frequently offer higher discount and up to 80%เนาะ have higher average discount ด้วยนะคะ this could be strategy เนาะเขาก็แนะนำเนาะมันน่าจะมี strategy ที่จะ drive volume นะหรืออาจจะเป็น hurt มันอาจจะไป hurt profit ของตัว central region ก็เป็นไปได้นะคะก็เป็นไปในสิ่งที่เราเห็นแหละเนาะใครได้แล้วกด6ค่ะจากกระโปรงเรียกเนี่ยโอเคถัดมาเกือบเสร็จแล้วเกือบเสร็จแล้วเอ่อ ฮิสโตแกรมบ้างlet's do sales histogram เนอะก็ the same ไม่ได้มีอะไรเนี่ยแตกต่างก็คือกดเลือก sales ใช่ไหม insert histogram is here โอเค but the histogram that we got เดี๋ยวขยับนิดนึง from the default one doesn't look good อืม sales histogram let's change this. We can change the shape of the histogram by changing the bin configuration in Excel. So let's double click the histogram. Boop, boop. And then we need to change the bin over here. So the bin is too detailed. We need to change horizontal axis เนาะตรง chart option เนี่ย change horizontal axis and then choose axis option the icon graph and then axis options we can configure by changing these numbers. Let's say we want bin width to be larger, say 200. And there are a lot of outlier over here we know before, right? So we will have another overflow bin to be like 2000. So all the big lot number will be in this bin. But most of the data is here, about 0 to 200. You see, it's a right skew, right? Ah, So now let's you do discount histogram ละกันเนาะhistogram for discount อันนี้ histogram for sales ใช่ไหมอ่ะ so let's say 5 minutes เนาะตอนนี้ 4 p.m. 4 5นะดู discount histogram So discount, insert histogram. The question is how can we adjust or reconfigure this histogram, right? Discount histogram. So the problem with discount histogram is it's not that different, right? You can have like 10, 15, 20% of discount. There's no like 16.5 discount, nothing like that. So actually we need to make the bin to be coarser ก็คือให้มันหยาบขึ้นเนาะก็ไปที่ horizontal axis let me change the bin like let's say I want just 5 bin yeah, it will just have 5 bins right you can say still skew to the right no mostly of the most discount are here right around here very small discount. Actually, most of them are zero non-discount, but we have outlier here. Okay. Again, I change the horizontal axis option here to just 5 number of bins. All right, so it's good. My conclusion is that it's good to examine box plot along with histogram and descriptive statistic. It goes together. It should goes together. All right. So final things that we do today is to create a bivariate analysis of sales and profit using scatter plot. So the assumption that we know before, right? The higher the sales should be the higher the profit. But scatter plot will tell us whether it's actually just what we think. Okay. So we choose sales and then we click control together profit ก็คือกด control ไปด้วยมันจะเลือก2 column พร้อมกัน and then we go insert scatter plot is over here so change the name right sales versus profit so does the sales in the x-axis or the y-axis how do we know you can see that the y-axis contains negative so that means profit is y-axis sales is x-axis actually you don't need to try to come up with any logic whether which one should be x which one should be y the rules for Excel is like this left column will be x forever always be x ก็คืออะไรที่อยู่ซ้ายจะเป็น x อะไรที่อยู่ขวาจะเป็น y therefore sales will be x axis and profit will be y okay you don't need to guess at all but when you want to use this scatter plot to show off or in your presentation you need to come up with the label otherwise people who look at your graph will have questions for sure so you need to add the axis label how do you add it you just click this plus button to add chart elements so add axis title over here okay you can either type but I have another better things that you can do instead of typing you can add an equation by clicking the formula row over here and then type equals and then click the header like here and then enter so once if you have changed the name of the column header this axis label will be changed too it's automatic Okay, it's the same as y-axis. Click the y-axis here. Don't type anything, and then go up, and then type equals, and then click profit header, and then enter. Okay, done. So you can see, we will talk about this later on next week. You can see the equation over here. It's actually called table reference because our data that come from Power Query, it will be formatted as table. So why it's called table, Ajahn? It always looks like table. No, usually if you have data in Excel, it's called range, not table. If you format it as table like this, using this button, format as table, it will make it more beautiful and comes with filter on the top automatically. That means for the table, it assumes that you have the column header. The first row will be the column header, and then it will change the first row to be column header with some more functionality for you. That is to filter, to sort, to whatever, select things here. So once you get table, you can use table reference in your equation anywhere in your Excel workbook. So just like this, I want to reference the header of the table called order. This is table called order. And the bracket here is like pandas. When you learn about data science, right? You use Python. When you use pandas, you have selector like this, right? With bracket. And then inside, this is the name of the column called profit. But I don't want the whole column. I only want header. So we have another selector here that says, okay, I want profit column, but only the header. In this case, the header name. Okay. So we will talk about this later next week when we add more equation, when we use more equation, and probably we need to use table reference like this. And I suggest that every time you format as table, you use table reference. It's easier and less error prone than using J2, A1 sales reference like this. Okay. So what does this scatter plot tells us? You might see that a pattern where high sales don't always mean high profit. So this, we have high sale with high profit, right? But this we don't. High sales doesn't mean high profit. So let's ask for help from AI. Whether what's the opinion of AI? Okay. What is your opinion on the sales versus profit? Look at the plot here. Based on scatter plot, it's called fan shape, right? It's like a fan. It is called in statistics heteroscedasticity. What does it mean by fan shape and heteroscedasticity? It means that low sales, we have predictable outcome. The profit will be clustered around zero. That means small gain, small loss. With a little risk here. However, if you have high sales, this is a high risk place where sales volume increase, the variance profit explode. It could be high profit or it could be high loss. You either win big or you either lose big. So it doesn't guarantee larger profit at all. Okay. And we also have the problem zone, high sale, negative profit. High sale, negative profit. Unprofitable whale, look at the point on the far right เซลล์ตัวนี้ far right ตัวนี้ นะคะ despite being largest cell it result in the loss เออเนาะ disaster transaction เนาะ lowest point on the chart ก็คือตรงนี้นี่ disaster ใช่ไหมคือตัวจุดนี้นะก็คือ loss 6,000น่ะ loss 6,000 interesting because the loss come from only sale 4,500คือขายได้4,500แต่ทำไมมัน loss เยอะกว่าแสดงว่าต้นทุนมันกินถูกไหมเออต้นทุนมันกิน แล้วก็มี success zone ก็คือตรง linear ตรงนี้ก็คือเป็นไปตาม assumption ใช่ไหมว่า high profit high sale high profit ค่ะ mass เนี่ยจะอยู่ bottom left ก็คือช่วงตรงนี้เห็นไหมอ่า summary volume does not equal value โอ้ summarize ได้คมมาก volume does not equal value scatter plot proof that chasing high sales without controlling margin is dangerous เห็นไหม we didn't always get high profit นะ so the next step must be we need to calculate profit margin in percentage. If you remember last time when we talk about the objectives and the KPI, one of our KPI is profit margin. No, that's why ไหมพอทำมาเรื่อยๆมันก็แนะนำเราไปเองว่าเฮ้ยจริงๆก็คือ profit margin เนี่ยน่าจะเป็นตัวสำคัญที่เราดูด้วยนะคะอ่ะโอเคเนาะน่าจะได้ตามนี้เนาะconclusion today what we use is we use Power Query to automate our data acquisition efficiently. We we try two scenarios of acquiring data with Power Query. After that, we try to have EDA as our detective. We try to understand the shape of our data. We use box plot. We use histogram to detect outliers or check distribution. And outlier isn't always an error, no. Sometimes it's just a finding something. So next step means next week, uh, we will try to pre-process, which means we clean. We see that there's some missing value, there's some negative discount that is not normal here. We try to clean that. We try to transform. Maybe there are some columns that we need to do some work on around it. We may need to integrate with uh, master data like products or customer นะคะ Okay, we will do that next step in the next lecture, which is next week. So next week is the รับปริญญาเนาะ commencement day, but we don't have holiday for us. It's an online class, so I hope that we still have class next Tuesday. Otherwise, we don't have time, no, because we will encounter with สงกรานต์ with whatever นะก็เดี๋ยวสอนไม่ทันนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นเดือนสัปดาห์หน้ายังเรียนปกติเพราะมันเรียนออนไลน์อยู่แล้วนะคะโอเคเอ่อ next we will have so next week you need to submit your first homework. Don't forget about that. And today we also need to submit what you did today, right? We have two files, which is this file. Just save it. I just move this to be here. Okay, and then I save this. Oh no, I saved wrong. It should be save as. Save as now. Scenario 2. Okay. So what you need to do is submit both files to lab lecture 2 over here นะ submit here เนาะก็คือผู้บอกแล้ว submit completed lab file ก็คือ first scenario แล้วก็ second scenario with data exploration นะคะโอเคก็ finally we will need to have a quiz today โอเคตอนนี้พอดีเลยนะ Okay, the quiz is opened. Okay.